do it on a daily basis, but you posted a wonderful piece of prose, and then you offered up who are today's public philosophers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
And I actually responded back, the Brothers Weinstein.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if you've heard of them, but I heard of them because of the Safe Space book again.
Yeah.
Brett Weinstein was one of the was one of the professors at Evergreen College. And for those of you who don't know,
Right.
Evergreen College is a very liberal university up in the Northwest. And they had kids. Well, actually, I'll explain this way. Brett Weinstein was a evolutionary biology professor, tenured. Well, I don't know if they have tenure at Evergreen, but he's established there and he's been there for many years. His wife, Heather, was also there, and I think voted the most popular professor on the campus. So those two have been there for years. They lived in that area. They were very popular. They're part of the community. Really good people and obviously big thinkers. So at Evergreen College, they had something that stemmed from 1970s. It was called the Day of Absence. And the Day of Absence was based on a black playwright. In the play, the black people decided not to show up to the town one day to prove to people what their value was. And so to mirror this wonderful story, Evergreen decided that they would have their black population go out and do whatever they wanted to do as a day of absence at the university. And they could go and help a charity. They could do whatever they want. It was an excused absence, if you will. And it was a wonderful piece to the university's history. And in 2017, I think they decided that they were going to exclude for the day white people. You could not come to the school, either faculty or student. And so Brett was like, man, that seems a little odd. And I think it's a little divisive. And he actually drafted a memo to the faculty. And it was, very elegant in its arguments and its reasoning. And then he sent it. And then it was enough. Didn't really think much of it. Somehow it got out. And there were kids all over the campus that stormed his classroom, said that he was a white patriarchy, dominant white patriarchy. He's a misogynist. He's all the name calling, and he needs to be removed. He needs to resign immediately. And they wouldn't let him teach. They were shouting and telling him to go fuck himself. And it was brutal. And so when I read that story, I was like, holy shit, this is ideology. And this is what spawned this whole thing for me. It's like, I got to start understanding what this means as a liberal, because I even made the concession that I might have gotten caught up in that if I was 18. And all my new friends, I just got high with and we played Frisbee, and they're like, yeah, we got to go against the man. Well, in this case, it's Brett. And Brett happens to be a white patriarchy, which is another whole discussion. But what really made me sick was that they uprooted this guy's life. Mm-hmm. They got to the point where they were stalking the parking lot with baseball bats looking for him to come to work. And then the police on campus were called off by the president of the university and said, do not do anything to these kids because we can't handle this blowback. And so they told Brett, we can't guarantee your safety anymore, sir. You can't come to the campus. So he resigned, and his wife resigned. And since then, he started, I think it's the Dark Horse, the Black Horse. I always screw this up. Black Horse or Dark Horse podcast. He has millions of followers. He has 2-hour podcasts on ideology, on science, on evolutionary biology, on politics, really complex topics that need long-form content. And then his brother, Eric, is the managing director of Peter Thiel Capital here in the Silicon Valley. He, much like his brother, is an academic. He went to UPenn, got his Ph.D. from MIT in mathematics, and he's an incredible thinker. I mean, whether you agree with, I don't agree with everything he says, but I agree with a lot of what he says. And these two are having numerous debates online. And so check them out whenever you get a chance, buddy. But they're having these wonderful conversations. And there's other guys out there. Dave Rubin has a show called The Reuben Report. He used to be a liberal. He's a gay man who believes in pro-choice. So he has some liberal tendencies, who's now leaning libertarian. So I don't agree with a lot of things he says, but he was outed by the left. They just attacked him viciously. And so he left the party and started his own show called The Reuben Report. He has Eric on, and he has Brett on, and he has people like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and all of these folks, Joe Rogan. Like, these are this, like, And you've seen all the long form content online. And there's a name for it, which Eric Weinstein actually coined, I think, if my memory's correct, which is called the intellectual dark web.
Oh, right.
And I bring this up to you because this is a group of men and women. It's actually mostly men. Again, this is my brother points out. Most of these guys are men. You got to stop listening to men all the time. Like, all right, it's a good point. But they're having very long form content discussions around complex issues because they're complex. You can't just like, this is it. Let's talk about this for 6 minutes and then we're done. And I bring these guys up for you and anyone who's listening to check these two out. These brothers are historically liberal, but they're pushing against the ideology of the left, which I think is really necessary. And I don't mean it just for the left. The right has to start doing this shit too, right? If you got to start, if you're a conservative and and just a historical conservative, you really can't rest on the Texas abortion bill. That you can't. On so many fronts, just the way it was drafted, the way it was shoved down the throats, what it's doing to women, specifically women of, people of color, poverty, the people that can't get out of the state to deal with anything to do with their biology. These are terrible things that the right needs to push back on. The left needs to push back on these little brats that went and stormed Brett's classroom, and the same little kids that stormed, the Berkeley campus that doesn't allow conservative thinkers to come and talk anymore because that's hate speech and I can't deal with it. And
it's funny though, Joey, as you tell the story, it occurred to me, I wonder if, the kids who went to the Weinstein classroom, are they the same ones who want safe spaces and milk and cookies and coloring books? Or don't they realize that he might need that too? Or was his classroom not considered a safe space? And it's like, here's the complexity within ideological movements that end up, you get contradictions.
Yes.
Right? And what you want for yourself.
You become so far left, you become right.
Yeah, what you want for yourself, you're not willing to accord to others, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the opposite of most progressive tendencies to become autocratic, authoritarian, in a sense, enforce rules the way those students were trying to enforce those rules. So it is interesting to see how all that happens.